I'm someone who needs a lot of evidence for everything, and that's not just aliens, that's everything. And I don't like to be the person to make statements if I don't have evidence. So this particular thing, I do not believe is aliens. But before people come at me, I do believe aliens are real.
It's the latest mystery lighting up the astronomy community, a fast-moving object cutting through our solar system with a trajectory that just doesn't add up.
Right now, something is happening in our solar system that's sending scientists scrambling for explanations. The interstellar object NASA's been tracking, 3I Atlas, is roughly the size of Manhattan and has been displaying several unusual movements and features which kind of defy typical behavior of comets.
Well, there's a split in the astronomical community. The majority faction says, what's all the fuss about? I mean, it's just a rock from outer space, and it's going to come through our solar system for the first time and then come whizzing back out again. It's the third known object from outside our solar system, so what's the fuss? Another faction, however, says, now, wait a minute. Perhaps this is a visitor, an intelligent visitor from another solar system.
Some say it's completely natural. Sorry, guys. Others think it might be something else, artificial, intelligent, and yes, they're using the word alien. Today, I'm diving into the strange case of 3I Atlas, the interstellar visitor that's reigniting one of science's biggest debates. What if the next oumuamua isn't natural at all?
And I used, together with two colleagues, 4,000 data points from 227 observatories around the Earth of 3I Atlas that monitored its motion across the sky. And we were able to say that the trajectory is sculpted only by gravity. There is no evidence for this recoil. And that means that the object is very massive. And I derived a value of 33 billion tons.
Discovered earlier this year, 3I Atlas is only the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected entering our solar system. That alone makes it headline-worthy. But what's really fueling the buzz are its unusual properties, its speed, trajectory, and the faint signatures scientists are struggling to classify. And that's where the internet comes in. Social media has exploded with theories from cautious curiosity to full-blown alien hype. One of the most outspoken voices in the discussion is Angry Astronaut, who believes 3I Atlas might not be natural at all. He points to the object's unusual motion, showing no clear non-gravitational acceleration, no typical dust or gas emissions. To him, this could mean one thing: it's not behaving like anything nature has produced. But not everyone is convinced. To get another perspective, I spoke with Astro Alexandra, one of TikTok and Instagram's biggest space educators, who says while the mystery is fascinating, the evidence still points to a natural origin. Astro Alex still believes intelligent life is out there, just not necessarily behind this rock. And I interviewed someone who's very much on the side that this was sent here by design. I don't think you're on that side.
I'm not on that side, but here's the thing, and I think it's important that I preface this. I believe in aliens. I believe that aliens are real. I believe there's aliens in our galaxy. I believe there's intelligent life in our galaxy. So this particular thing, I do not believe is aliens. But before people come at me, I do believe aliens are real.
But you might be one of the people watching this thinking, hey, wait a second, I think this could have been sent here by design. And if you're in that camp, here is my interview with Angry Astronaut. He details some of the reasons that he actually thinks that there's a strong case for this, and then we'll go back to the interview with Astro Alexandra to talk more about why it's a fun idea, but she really is not buying it. I can't get away from this thing at this point, so it's time to make a video. I want to interview people on both sides, and you are the person that I'm interviewing that thinks that this is very significant. So I want you to tell me why we should care and why this is just so mind-blowing.
Well, regardless of whether it's natural or not, 3I Atlas is different than any object that's passed through the solar system that we have observed. It's radically different from the other two interstellar objects that have passed through in 2017 with Oumuamua, which had some unusual things about it, but nevertheless, radically different from 3I Atlas. And then probably the most ordinary of the interstellar objects in 2019, 2I Borisov, an object that nobody seems to be maintaining as anything other than just an ordinary comet that happened to be flying interstellar. There were some strange things about it in terms of composition and that sort of thing, but overall, not a very unusual object. 3I Atlas is unique in many respects.
3I Atlas, we sort of discovered July 1st, 2025. So very recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
we had it under observation prior to that, but we didn't know what it was.
Right.
We saw it after the fact. We went back to other instruments such as the TESS orbiting observatory and saw it several months prior to the official discovery date. So we had it. It was visible for quite some time prior to that.
well, let's pretend or assume that someone in the audience has no idea what we're talking about. So what is 3I Atlas and what are the implications? Like, why is this such a big deal? You know, we know that we have telescopes studying the night sky all the time, but like, why are people making videos about this right now?
Sure. My position and where I'm going to differ from the vast majority of my colleagues who are interested in astronomy. I mean, I only have a minor in astronomy from the University of Colorado. I'm not an expert by any means, and a lot of what I'm saying is based on things that Avi Loeb has said.
Well, we were never prepared for this kind of a scenario. We always thought about rocks coming from the sky. These are meteors, and I completely agree with you that we should change the way we address, because right now we are entering a new era. There is the Rubin Observatory in Chile that will find interstellar visitors every few months, and so we should be ready for such a situation. And the question is, what kind of plan should we make in case we notice some alien technology?
And there were anomalies about this object even prior to us seeing it. 3I Atlas became active at a time when the sun should not have been warm enough to make it active. It was way too far away. It was so bright, even very far away, that it had to be active or really, really, really big. It's easy to find conspiracy takes on the internet, and I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories at all. I don't think, for example, that NASA knows that this is an alien ship and they're hiding it from us or anything like that. I simply believe astronomers are only interested in what is within their purview, things that are within their field of experience, and they're very, very, very hesitant to drift out and talk about artificial points of origin or artificial objects, spaceships, whatever. They're very hesitant to talk about things like that. And the fact that Avi Loeb has come out of the woodwork, as he always does, and has talked to the media about a possible alien, if you want to call it that, alien origin for this object to the media. And this has stirred up all kinds of craziness online, including people being frankly scared, and understandably scared, because the media headlines are saying things like, this object could come and collide with Earth. It could change course. It could attack us. It could be part of an alien invasion, blah, blah, blah. Avi Loeb never said anything. He never suggested anything. He did suggest that if this thing were to change course, we would be ill prepared to do anything about it. But he also said that he doesn't actually believe that that's what's going to happen.
So when you said it seems like it was sent here by design. What do you mean by that?
I just, in preparation for this, I had a conversation with Grok to list off a few things that nobody is denying that these things are true. Okay. And it's just very, very, very odd. So, first of all, let's talk about NGA, non gravitational acceleration, something that happens with comets. They outgas. There's a lot of water, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, dust, that sort of thing that oftentimes explosively emit from the surface of a comet. And so when you have this explosive outgassing, it's like a thruster, like a rocket engine. And so a comet is going to deviate in its course, just a little bit, not much, but there's going to be a slight deviation in its course when there's obvious outgassing. And we've seen this with a wide variety of comets, actually virtually all of them. So let's talk about Comet Hale-Bopp in 1995. So you were just a little kid at the time, I believe, when Hale-Bopp was in the news. Yeah, you don't remember seeing it. That's too bad, because it was a glorious comet. Probably the most beautiful comet that's been seen in the night sky in the last half century. I happened to see it while I was at sea in Charleston, off the coast of Charleston. And I mean, just glorious. But one of the reasons why it was so beautiful and visible, it came relatively close to Earth, but it was also really, really big and comet. All right. And so obviously an enormous comet is going to be very, very heavy. And so therefore it's going to be very tough for even things like explosive outgassing to push it around. The non-gravitational acceleration from Hale-Bopp was between 4 and 6 times 10 to the negative ninth power astronomical units per day squared. So 10 to the minus ninth power is very, very small, but still observable. Okay, so it still had a little bit of shifting, a little bit of moving around as a result of all the outgassing. 3I Atlas, on the other hand, has had virtually none. Almost imperceptible, and this is after over 1,000 observations. Virtually no sign of non-gravitational acceleration has been seen with this object, and that either means that it's incredibly heavy and even heavier than Hale-Bopp, and that's really weird because Hale-Bopp was a very heavy comet, or there's something else going on. So let me tell you what Grok had to say. Okay, so I asked that this is a bit weird. Yes, Hale-Bopp was a huge comet, but displayed more NGA, non-gravitational acceleration, despite the fact that both objects appear to have a lot of outgassing. The response is yes, exactly. This is the core weirdness and scientific puzzle that Avi Loeb and others are highlighting. Hale-Bopp giant, big but porous and active with moderate NGA. 3I Atlas is a hyperactive dwarf, losing mass like crazy far from the sun, but acts like a dead rock in its orbit. This NGA suppression is the strongest quantifiable anomaly of 3I Atlas. It's not just a little off. It's physically in standard cometary models unless the object is unusually massive, dense, or engineered. And by the way, I didn't prompt Grok to say, hey, do you think this thing's alien, or do you think that it's a UFO or something? It came up with this all on its own. So once again, it lists engineered as one of the options. And of course, the reason that an object would maintain such a steady course is if it was using maneuvering thrusters to stay on course.
Future Ellie here. Within 3 days of recording this, things actually changed a little bit. All of a sudden, right after perihelion, 3I Atlas deviated more than any comet in history. So 0 NGA to lots of NGA. This is getting stranger and stranger.
Let's go on to something else that's weird about this object. We detected nickel in its coma, the metal nickel in its coma at a huge distance from the sun, at a distance where metals should not be sublimating off the surface of a comet. The sun isn't hot enough to produce this yet. And yet, guess what? We see nickel and only nickel as far as metals are concerned in the coma. Later on, when the object got substantially closer to the sun, we started to see some iron too, which coincides more with how comets behave. We've heard of nickel iron asteroids, so nickel and iron will sublimate together, but never nickel on its own. That never ever happens. So the theory is that there is a nickel carbonyl process. There are some good scientific theories that show that even at that distance, theoretically, that chemical compound could sublimate in a way that would result in nickel. But again, nickel being sublimated off the object without iron. But we know that is because the nickel carbonyl process is an artificial process used in the manufacture of nickel-based alloys, high sophisticated nickel-based alloys that are used in aviation in a wide variety of high-tech other objects. That's a real-life precedent that we have for the nickel carbonyl process is an artificial one. I acknowledge that a natural process theoretically could be responsible for this, but we've never seen it in nature before. So my position is we need to at least consider the possibility that this is happening artificially and not naturally, just because we don't like, an artificial explanation, or we think an artificial explanation is too radical. The trajectory of 3I Atlas adheres to the plane of the ecliptic. The odds of that are very small. I mean, it's possible, but the odds are very small. The vast majority of even solar system comets do not do that. The plane of the ecliptic is a very useful trajectory for a ship, shall we say, that wanted to get a look at several different planets in our solar system. And by interesting coincidence, this trajectory not only adheres to the plane of the ecliptic, it also passes close to Mars and to Jupiter and to Venus. That is very, very unlikely thing to happen. But again, could it happen by chance? Sure, perhaps. And then finally, it's also disappearing behind the sun, and that's where it is right now and why we can't see it, at its closest approach. Conveniently, at the time when our instruments could get the best possible thing, its trajectory is just happening to take it behind the sun where we can't see it at all. So all four, here's how it's summarized. First of all, it says that all of these things do fit with an artificial explanation. But let's go ahead and talk about the natural ones, or the things that people who say that this has been debunked tend to say. It's just a weird comet. Well, that's false by the lack of non-gravitational acceleration and the nickel. Carbonyls are natural, the nickel carbonyl process. Well, that's plausible, but unproven. There's no precedent in nature for that. Its trajectory is random. That's statistically indefensible. All of the things that this object just happens to be doing that would be incredibly useful to an artificial object, all happening by chance. Maybe it could, but it's very unlikely. Then no signals detected. That's a very common one that everybody likes to talk about. We haven't picked up any radio signals from it. That's irrelevant. It has no obligation to signal us. And how do we know that it would use radio to communicate anyway?
If it is artificial, what's the point?
Well, the point might be just to do a survey of our solar system. It might be dispatching smaller probes, Voyager and 1 and 2 type probes, to Mars, to Venus, and to Jupiter. By interesting coincidence, Venus and Mars are both planets within the Goldilocks, and Jupiter has moons orbiting it that also might have life, especially moons like Europa. So that would be very good targets for an artificial object that's doing a survey of the solar system. And why aren't they checking out Earth? Well, maybe that happened in the past. Maybe a previous probe 100, 200, 300 years ago checked us out, and they already know everything they want to know about us, and they'd like to check out the other potentially promising worlds in our solar system. That's one explanation. Another possible explanation is the fact that our star is really active right now. It's putting out lots and lots of solar superstorms, shall we say. Coronal mass ejections is the scientific term, CMEs. And these CMEs produce an enormous amount of energy. What if 3i Atlas has a way to harness this energy? Perhaps this thing isn't passing through our solar system because it's interested in us at all. It might simply be doing it because our star is very active and it's harnessing some extra energy from it so it can go on to its next destination.
So what happens now? It's we can't see it, right? But it's gonna probably pop out on the other side, or what's next?
Oh yeah, it's definitely when it emerges. A lot of people are saying, oh, that's when we can expect it to change course. That's the ultimate time for it to execute an orbit of the sun. I doubt it. I actually don't think it's going to do that at all, even if it is artificial. I think that it has a trajectory that makes a lot of sense right now. I don't see a point for it to change course and come after us unless it's using the sun as cover. It's going to execute this transfer orbit around the sun, without us being able to see it, and then bear down on us, with us having no chance to react to it. Again, I think that that's science fiction, I don't know. It's sensationalism. It's done nothing so far to suggest that it intends to do anything like that. If anything, its behavior seems to suggest more that it's trying to stay away from us, avoid contact. And again, given how violent and aggressive and paranoid our species is, not a bad idea, I would say, to stay away from us.
So when will we likely see it emerge?
At the beginning of November. I think the
Oh.
exact date is November 9th, something like. It's not going to be hidden in the glare of the sun for long because its speed is increasing. The closer it gets to the sun, the more the gravity of the sun affects its velocity. So it's not going to stay there for a very long time.
And so here is the other side of the argument so that you can make your informed decision about where you stand on this. And I interviewed someone who's very much on the side that this was sent here by design. I don't think you're on that side.
I'm not on that side, but here's the thing, and I think it's important that I preface this. I believe in aliens. I believe that aliens are real. I believe there's aliens in our galaxy. I believe there's intelligent life in our galaxy. I'm not an alien denier, but what I am is someone who is very sensitive to topics turning into conspiracy theories. And I'm someone who needs a lot of evidence for everything. And that's not just aliens, that's everything. And I don't like to be the person to make statements if I don't have evidence. So this particular thing, I do not believe is aliens. But before people come at me, I do believe aliens are real.
Yeah. Why do you think that this, especially in just the past few days, Avi Loeb was on Joe Rogan talking about it. This is really starting to gain traction. Why are people so, obsessed with this one?
Well, I think Avi Loeb is an astronomer who has this huge name of Harvard after his title. He's a professor there, and he's a great astronomer. He's an astronomer beyond. I'm not an astronomer, so he's brilliant. He is, and he has this really powerful title. And so Avi Loeb is what I personally like to describe as an alien optimist, and I think that that's a really valuable tool when you're looking at new things. And this is an interstellar comet. This is a new thing. It's only the third that we know about. And so when you're looking at these new things, I believe what he is trying to advertise is this is new. We have to look at this from all angles, and that includes extraterrestrial life. I think that's incredibly valuable. I think that space is huge. and we should consider all avenues. Okay, so putting this extraterrestrial life tag on it is inevitably going to get clicks. It's going to get views. It's going to go viral, because what we're going to do is we're going to start attributing everything about this comet to aliens. But even in his original papers, Avi Loeb said, these are thought experiments. This is what I would do if I was an alien. He does these kinds of papers and says, this is how I would move if I was an alien. And so it makes it really easy to attribute a lot of the things that we don't know or we don't understand yet to aliens, rather than, in my opinion, dive deeper into the science and say, this comet is really cool. It's coming in at the angle, nearly at the angle of the ecliptic, the plane of the solar system. Very similar. Instead of saying, that's really cool because that's not the same plane as the Milky Way. Why is it doing that? What we're doing is saying it's aliens. And I would rather us figure out why, where could it have come from, all of those kinds of things. And so I think that almost it's halting science in that way. But he is coming up with some really cool numbers. And there are some really spectacular properties about this comet. So it is incredibly fascinating. And that fascination, I believe, is also doubling down on why this comet, you can write so many articles about things that are grounded in real science here that are truly fascinating. So I think that it's just a perfect storm of all of these things happening.
And I reached out to you because I saw the short that you made about what SETI had to say. So talk about why SETI's opinion on this is quite relevant, and kind of maybe recap what they had to say.
Absolutely. So SETI is the organization that is searching for extraterrestrial life. That is their goal. They, more than any academics, want to find aliens. Their entire mission is to search for extraterrestrial life, and ideally intelligent life. And if hypothetically there was a spacecraft that came to our solar system, that would be very intelligent life. So if there was an organization that was going to be interested in it, that would be SETI. So what SETI did is they took all of this math, all of these claims that Dr. Avi Loeb put out there. And that's what he's been doing. He's been writing blog posts and putting out this data. And SETI took all of those and broke them down and basically explained why it wasn't aliens. So one of the key takeaways here is this is the third interstellar comet we've ever seen. Third, which is so cool, right? But it also means we have a sample size of 3. It's so incredibly small. So saying, this isn't what a comet normally does, it shouldn't. This comet's not from our solar system. It should be doing things that our comets don't. It shouldn't have the same chemical makeup as the comets in our solar system. It wasn't maybe formed in the same area of space and out of the same material. So it makes sense to me that it wouldn't be acting like a comet normally acts. We say this is, the fastest interstellar comet, the largest interstellar comet we've ever seen. That's fantastic. It's out of 3. You know what I mean? So we don't really know how this compares to a large sample size. This could be an incredibly average interstellar comet, and we don't know that yet.
Right.
We're just getting better at detecting them. And so I think we're going to start seeing them more and more and more. But essentially, that's the root of this paper, is it's saying, yeah, that angle's interesting. There's no up and down in space. It could be coming from anywhere. And it has this hallmark anti-tail. It's a tail of the comet pointing towards the sun. That's a little odd. That's a little odd for comets. And then they explain why. And that in itself is really cool. These grains of dust coming off of this comet are too big to initially be pushed back by the radiation of the sun alone. So it has this anti-tail and it's facing the sun because the sun's energy and the radiation is actually exciting the comet itself. And so that's pushing it off. So it's kind of going that way. So it's really fascinating. That's so cool. But it's not acting like our comets. And in my opinion, it shouldn't.
Right.
Mhm.
What would you say? There were two main arguments that the person that I interviewed said, well, these kind of give it away. One of them was the lack of NGA, the non-gravitational acceleration. Does that one ring a bell?
I think that there's been a lot of discourse about the acceleration and the thrust of this comet. So I don't know specifically what that would be, but I do see a lot of discourse about that. And what I would say is that if this was an intelligent enough species to have gotten a spacecraft to our solar system, they've got awful thrust. It's moving very quickly, but it is not accelerating in a way that we don't see comets accelerating. In fact, this is something that it's doing pretty normal. It's accelerating and decelerating in ways that we expect from a comet in a hyperbolic orbit going around the sun. The sun's gravity is going to slingshot it around. It's going to have some changes, and I think that if it was aliens, they're doing a poor job of accelerating and decelerating, and they're really just letting the gravity of the sun take control.
And the other one was like that there was nickel in the coma, like way too, early on, and that was unusual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's one of those ones that I'm excited about. And I think that from a scientific standpoint, this could be one of the biggest learning factors, because what we're having an opportunity to do is see a chemical and elemental makeup from outside of the solar system. And I think that what we've been given is a rock from outside of the solar system, and we're getting to see its outgassing as it approaches the sun. It is probably the most valuable piece of scientific data that we have. I'm not a chemist. I don't, I guess, have a full understanding of why that would be weird,
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think that it's not from our solar system. And so we're comparing it to comets in our solar system.
Right.
And so, if I guess the argument for aliens would be that they are accelerating and that's the outgassing from their engine. Like, I'm not sure what they're trying to insinuate with that. You know what I mean? But I certainly don't think that that would be evidence of aliens, especially in the quantities of outgassing that we are seeing. It's a very large object.
For sure.
Mhm.
After you put out that video, because I did see that video, I haven't followed up on all the comments. What was the main consensus? Were people upset, or were they like, yeah, probably you're right?
Both. I think one of my biggest concerns is that it's going to become a boy who cried wolf situation. Specifically with Dr. Loeb, who has called many, many objects aliens. So far, we don't have any evidence that any object has been aliens. What we're doing is attributing alien characteristics to these objects, but none of them have had evidence of it being aliens. We're seeing things that we don't understand and saying that's aliens, but we've had no definitive evidence that any of them have been aliens. And I'm very concerned that what we're going to do is we're going to create two extremes. We're going to create the people who say everything is aliens. And those people are going to become increasingly frustrated and increasingly motivated when things are repeatedly not believed as being aliens. But then we're also going to have the people who refuse to believe that anything is aliens. They're going to say, well, that wasn't aliens, that wasn't aliens, that wasn't aliens. And then someday we're going to find evidence for aliens and they're not going to believe it. And so my concern is that we're creating this really dangerous spiral of people being so stubborn in their ways that nobody is going to be open for the opposite to be true. Nobody's going to be open to this scientific data. I'm already seeing science about these really cool things happening with this incredibly cool interstellar comet getting overshadowed by its aliens. You know what I mean? So That's my biggest concern here, and that's kind of the rhetoric that I've been seeing in response to most posts that I've been seeing, including my own on social media. And I would like to put it out there. Someday when we find aliens, I'm going to scream it from the top of every building. I am not the person who's going to look at everything and say that can't be aliens. I'm going to look at all the evidence first. But the kind of evidence I need, we are not seeing here. We're actually not seeing anything that's like evidence for aliens. It's just a weird comet, you know?
Yeah, and it's still, I mean, it's still worth studying, and it's still
100%.
exciting.
Like I said, it's truly like a scientific gift for us that it has traveled through space. And it's coming in the inner solar system. It's coming near the sun. I mean, it's not coming near Earth, but it's coming in the inner solar system close enough for us to study it. That is a gift.
Yeah, if we have enough funded money to study anything.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I just saw a post from the European Space Agency today, actually, on X, that I believe JUICE, the Jupiter Icy, that one,
Yeah.
Explorer. I don't know what JUICE stands for. I believe that spacecraft from the European Space Agency is going to look for it, which I would be very excited about as well, because JUICE is doing a lot of science as it's just traveling in Jupiter, and I think it's really cool to utilize these spacecraft that are already built, already in action, and I think that's so cool, and I'm excited to see what kind of science it gets.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I'm a little worried about what's going on with NASA right now. And
I am too. Deeply,
well, there's a
deeply
lot. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and I think it's a shame. I think that the space industry is oftentimes diminished to rockets and space travel. And I think that's something that people fail to consider is that NASA is not only funding a lot of those rockets, and a lot of that development and a lot of those rockets wouldn't exist without NASA, but NASA is the world's leader in astronomy and in the science. And we wouldn't be learning about these worlds to travel to without NASA. And so I think that that is really overshadowed. And I think that spacecraft are getting a lot of attention because we have a lot of companies that are great at spacecraft and that can do a lot of spacecraft oftentimes better than NASA, for cheaper than NASA, quicker than NASA can. And we're seeing that. And I think that that makes people not believe in NASA.
Yeah.
But NASA's strength has always been, in my opinion, exploration outside of spacecraft, because we can learn right now more about space, more about exoplanets, planets in our solar system, galaxies other than our own from Earth than we can in a spacecraft right now.
What do you think about this idea to reopen the HLS contract to meet the Artemis 3 goals?
Oh, the space drama of the month. I don't know. I mean, I think that one of the biggest arguments for NASA working with these commercial companies has been to increase competition and create better spacecraft. And I don't see why that argument wouldn't apply here. The space community is one of the coolest communities in the world. I think everybody watching this video, all of your followers are so passionate and incredible. And I think that fundamentally what we can all agree on is that we love space. And I think that everyone needs to remember to bring it back to that, because ultimately what we all want is the truth, and we're all trying to get there. Yeah. And I think we all just have to remember, like, that's the moral of the story. And nobody should be attacking each other for what they believe in and what they believe is the best path to get there, because we're all searching for the same thing. And that's, curiosity. It's life beyond Earth. And it's also, what does our life here on Earth mean? And so I think that that's, the root of it.
So we both cover space content. I know you've been covering more of this type of content, and you've been pretty heavily covering this. Why do you think it's interesting to so many people, and what are most people kind of saying about it?
Oh, people want it to be an alien ship. And just to be clear, I don't think it's an alien ship as we would understand that. If it is artificial, it's a heavily modified asteroid or even perhaps a modified comet. We ourselves talk about the possibility of using asteroids for interstellar travel. The reason that they would be useful is, number one, they have a very large potential volume if you hollow them out for a habitable area. In addition to that, the natural structure of a comet actually provides enormous protection from cosmic rays and solar radiation. Ice and rock are excellent shields against those sorts of things. So an asteroid traveling interstellar, hollowed out with some machinery, engines, something along those lines, have, 80, 90% natural with about 10 to 20% worth of machinery of some kind. Perhaps it's habitable inside. Perhaps, there's living things. It's certainly not beyond the realm of possibility. As I said, we ourselves have talked about the potential of interstellar arcs made out of hollowed out asteroids. Or it may simply be a big robot ship. I think that it very probably is an asteroid or comet, but a modified asteroid or comet, not what we think it is. And again, do I think that's absolutely what it is? No. I think that there's definitely a very good possibility that it's natural. But at the same time, I think it's irresponsible to dismiss the artificial possibility.
And will we ever get close enough to really get to the bottom of this?
We could, if we send Juno probe that's currently orbiting Jupiter, and right now there are forces in that are trying to make that happen because Avi Loeb has made allies in Congress. They're trying to get the Juno probe, which is currently orbiting Jupiter and scheduled for disposal, by the way. It has almost no useful life. We're in a couple of months, we're going to plunge it into Jupiter's atmosphere and it's going to burn up. Instead, use the remaining fuel that it has and try to get on an intercept trajectory with 3I Atlas. The best you're going to get is a high-speed flyby because 3I Atlas is burning. It's moving really fast. You'll just get a few real quick photographs of it before it goes zooming by. But nevertheless, potentially we could get a very close-up look at it. But then again, may not have enough fuel left. Its primary engine may not be in good enough shape to attempt that sort of intercept, not work. But even if it doesn't, I think it's worth a shot. And even if you can get kind of close, a few million kilometers away instead of the enormous distances that we've been trying to photograph it at, currently, I still think it's definitely worth it, especially with a ship that we're going to get rid of anyway.
And do you know about how big it is?
No, that's one of the big questions, isn't it? It could be anywhere. Some astronomers are saying it's only 1 kilometer in diameter. I don't see any way it could be that small, not with a total lack of non-gravitational acceleration. Yes, it's made out of some kind of incredibly dense material. But then if it is, the artificial explanation starts becoming more prominent at that point. But between, and this is a big variation here, between 5 and 40 kilometers in diameter.
Oh my gosh. Well, one thing that surprised me is you were saying people are even buying merchandise, t-shirts.
Yes.
With 3I Atlas.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. I had Sunline design an asteroid alien, it's mostly asteroid with engines, machinery, that sort of thing. And yeah, people like it. People like the design. And, frankly, I'd find it to be quite compelling myself. I think it's exciting. I'd love it if that were the case. And you know what? All of these astronomers are going to say that too. Oh, I would love it to be, an artificial object. I would love it to be an alien ship, but it just isn't. We've got to be realistic about this. But here's the thing. what astronomers, mainstream astronomers, most of them want even more than to discover an alien artifact is to protect their reputation amongst their peers. And if you say that something might be alien and you're wrong, then you look like an enormous fool. And there's a decent chance that you're not going to get hired by a serious institution afterwards. The only reason that Avi Loeb says things like this is because he was head of astronomy and astrophysics at Harvard for 10 years. He was an incredibly respected astronomer before he started saying all this stuff. And even his reputation has been significantly damaged by exploring these possibilities. And again, has Avi Loeb said that this is an alien spaceship? No. He says that it might have been sent here by design. There might be something artificial about it. But odds are, according to him, odds are it's natural. But we should still explore the artificial possibility. That's all he said. And yet, man, that has damaged his reputation.
What is the rest of the trajectory, or like what happens now with, like, is it just going to leave?
Well, it's going to blow past Jupiter, assuming that its trajectory doesn't change at all. And then it'll head out of the solar system again along the plane of the ecliptic and in a direction that's spinward, towards the edge of the galaxy, because it came from the core of the galaxy. At least it appeared to. So, and it'll continue on its merry way. Near as we can tell, we are the first solar system that this, if its speed and trajectory has been constant, if it's always been going in this direction, speed, we're the first solar system this thing has run into in hundreds of thousands of years. This is an unusual encounter for it. And if it's artificial, I kind of doubt that, that doesn't seem very likely to me. Seems to me that if it's artificial, it's changed course a number of its journey. But if it is just a natural object at this speed and this trajectory, we're the first solar system that it's encountered in a very long time, and it will be many, many thousands of years before it encounters another one.
The truth is, both sides want the same thing answers. So what do you guys think in the comments? Do you guys think that 3i Atlas is natural or may have an artificial origin sent here by design? Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.